to episode 17. Last week we took a little break because of the July 4th holiday, and I put a link up on Instagram and also our Facebook page to another friend of ours who does Q&As and these types of interviews with her mom, and she actually was part of the inspiration for why we started this. And her name's Catherine Votberg. Her mom is Janice Johnson, and Janice is the mother of 11 children, and she homeschooled all of them, and so a lot of practical wisdom. So they've done, I don't know, maybe 10 of these Q&As. So encourage you to check those out. Their YouTube channel, or Catherine's, is called Now That I'm a Mother, so you can look at those there. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start today's lesson on forgiveness, and it's directed towards women and particularly wives. So we did a poll on Instagram and trying to figure out what topic to cover this weekend, and between a mothering topic or a topic for wives, and the wives won the poll. So
yay, wives!
That's why we're doing wives this weekend, and it'll have a part 2 next weekend. So without further ado, we'll turn it over to Mom to start today.
All right. Well, you know, when we lived up in the mountains for about 20 years, close to 20 years, I guess, we had Titus 2 meetings for the community and for Christians up there, and real practical work. And a lady that became my friend, we used her materials. She didn't live up there, but it was really helpful, rubber meets the road type of thing. So I'm going to use some of those notes today and add some of my own, and I hope this is helpful and practical. And the subject today is, why is it so hard to forgive our husbands? Well, basically, it's hard because the world, the flesh, and the devil are all on the opposite side of what we should be doing. The world wants us to have a entitlement, like we are entitled to a good, easy life, and so that's one thing. And you know, sometimes our reading can feed into that. A lot of ladies like to read romance novels, and that gives kind of a distorted view of what to expect in our marriages, and that's more inclined to all the fantasies that a woman desires. Then fairness is another thing. We think it's not fair if certain things happen to us, or if you know, somebody is not treating us the way that we think we should be treated. So that is another thing. And you know, life is not fair. We can't expect everything to always go our way, but we can trust God to work all things out together for good, because we love Him and we are called according to His will. And so we just trust in that. But pride also is a factor. I deserve to be loved. You know, it's just the way we can fall into thinking and feeling sorry for ourselves and making a bigger deal out of things than they should be. So those do make it hard to be forgiving. And also, negative thought patterns has a big impact on us. You know, our thoughts are what feed our emotions. So if we're thinking things like, he doesn't love me, he just cares about himself, or I can't forgive him for what he said or did, or he'll never change, or maybe you even think, I should never have gotten married to him. Well, we need to have a godly fear of those kind of bitter thoughts, because they reap a terrible harvest. If you're sowing the wind with those kind of thoughts, you're going to reap the whirlwind, and it may just impact your whole family and other relationships. So I encourage you to really take stock of your thoughts, and don't feed those emotions with those kind of thinking. Now, Not forgiving somebody doesn't just affect them. They might not even know about it, but it does affect you. It puts you in kind of a prison of those painful memories. And also, it does hurt your relationship with that person. You're not as free to have a positive relationship and to love them and be kind. You know, partly the reason why it's hard to forgive our husbands is because we live with them, and so there's daily interactions, and we can react poorly to Ephesians 4:31 says, "Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice." Now, I was looking up the Greek in those words, and bitterness, the first thing in Greek is acridity. It's like acid. Poison is another word that they listed under the meaning of that in the Greek. Wrath is passion or indignation, and it can be irritation too. Anger is a feeling of wanting to get even or punishment or vengeance. Clamor is an outcry, a tumult, or crying. It could be a big argument that starts because of your wrong response to whatever happened. Evil speaking is slander or vilifying somebody or gossiping. You know, women sometimes get together and they'll complain about their husband, and they'll tell other ladies what they did, the husband did, and paint him in a bad light, and that's slander. That's not telling all the good things he does. It's just enjoying telling the things that you didn't think were so good and correct. And also malice. Malice is malignancy or naughtiness, and we don't want to have a cancer growing between us and our husband with our attitudes. So take it serious of what your thoughts are and what you're allowing to build up between you and your husband. You know, Satan wants to destroy marriages, especially Christian marriages. So we want to be very careful about letting him plant seeds of thoughts in our mind that would actually put a wedge between us and our husband. Now, the Bible says no temptation has taken you except what is common to man. And since we're talking to women, we'll say, "in such as in common to other women." But God is able to provide a way of escape that you might be able to bear it. You know, forgiveness is a choice. It's not an emotion. Our wrong thoughts will create emotions that will make it hard for us to make that choice. But it is a choice, and we can choose out of obedience to God to obey him. Just think of what God endured to see his son suffer on the cross for us, and what Jesus endured to be faithful to obey the will of his Father in heaven. So, are you willing to go through pain if it means letting go of those hurts and those wounds? Next week, we're going to talk about how to get rid of an unforgiving spirit and give you some practical advice on that. But right now, I just want to plant the thoughts about how forgiveness is a choice, and it makes a big difference in your marriage and in your relationships.
Okay, and we have a Moments with Mom Facebook page for those of you who want to see the updates. I post the videos there and also quotes and things on Facebook. So go ahead and check that out if you like, and we'll see you next week for part 2 on forgiveness. And then also coming up in a few weeks, we're going to do another one of our sibling interviews. So last time we interviewed the youngest of the family, youngest of 7, and next time we're going to do the second oldest boy, so the third oldest in the family. So stay tuned for that, and if you have questions or things you'd like to hear, you can always comment on the YouTube channel or on Instagram. So Thank you, and hope you have a great rest of your week.
So long.
Bye.